All right, we're recording. Welcome everyone to How to Become a 10x PM Without Burning Out. I'm Becca. I'm so excited you're here. I kind of want to take a moment, like we'll get the energy kind of amped up for this session today, I promise. But I want to actually get us kind of operating on the same page for a second. You're here because you're a 10xer, you identify as a 10xer, or you are destined to be one. But you're also here probably because the risk of burnout really resonated with you for some reason. So I want to just create this space for us today that really allows for and welcomes wherever you are in your emotional exhaustion or sense of commitment to your goals or motivation. If you're feeling down, that's welcome. If you're feeling stoked, that is also welcome. And actually, I'm sort of curious what I'm working with here. On a scale of 1 to 10, let's see, I guess the thing that people have been coming with me most often now is exhaustion. It has replaced lack of confidence as the number one thing people are seeking support with right now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how exhausted are you feeling right now? With 10 being like, you haven't gotten out of bed yet today, and 1 being ready to go, absolutely stoked, all the energy in the world. 1 to 10, where are you at? 9.8, 6s, 7s, 9s. Okay, Sarah's at a 4, awesome. 6 or 7, yeah, I feel you guys. I'm about at a 3 today. So I have plenty of energy to share with you. That is one of the reasons why I'm here. February, not my favorite month. Super short days, very cold. Winter's been going on for a long time. But I have been taking really good care of my body and being very conscious about that, and spending a lot of time with my breath, which always helps a lot. So for the 10s out there, I hear you. For the people who are, have a little bit more energy to share, I want you to kind of feel the level of support that's surrounding you right now, including if you're watching the recording of this. So you are here in this room with us also. And so welcome everybody, wherever you are in your level of exhaustion today. You're gonna feel better at the end of this session. We're gonna talk about a concrete, cold, hard technique that you will leave with today, as well as hopefully the sense of support. Just so you know, I think almost 500 people registered for this event. Clearly burnout is at the top of people's minds right now. So I really want you to feel that support, feel just how not alone you are, because that is one of the 4 horsemen of burnout, is feeling that loneliness and that isolation, which we will talk about in just a second. Okay, so hi everyone, we're gonna get started now. Justine is my amazing co-pilot here and co-host. She'll be answering questions and keeping track of your questions in the chat as we go, and I will make time to answer them at the end. And she'll be madly admitting people as we go, so thanks Justine for all your help there. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to absolutely sprint through the intro and promises that I'm going to make to you for this session. We're going to talk about why we're adopting a new productivity system to begin with. We'll introduce the 4 horsemen of burnout. We will then go through the technique that you're going to learn about how to throw away your to-do list and what to do instead. And then we'll go into a bit of the science behind why we take bite off more than we can chew, take on more than we really want to, say yes when we should say no. And then hopefully I'll go as fast as I can through this without losing you, so that we can maximize time at the end for open coaching questions. I will take questions from everybody and try to answer as much as I can. But please feel free to enter questions in the chat. We will be keeping track of them, though I might not jump on it in real time. Okay, first off, okay, I really want everyone to kind of get in their bodies here. One of the things about executive presence, influence, confidence, the number one factor in all of it is the quality of your breath. To generalize, if you're feeling really anxious, stressed out, overwhelmed right now, I would bet $1 million that the quality of your breath is kind of shallow, kind of fast. And if that's you, I want you to really slow it down. I want you to draw deep, slow, calm breaths starting right now. And if you're the person who's feeling super withdrawn, you've got that freeze or that choke experience happening when in moments where it really counts, I bet $1 million you're holding your breath a lot. And so I want you to just be super aware of that. And anytime if you feel like this is moving really fast or the energy is like ramping up, which it's about to, by the way, I want you to just come back to this breath and really soothe yourself. This is the #1 technique that we teach in my program and in all of my coaching as the highest leverage area to focus if you want to feel confident and relieve stress. It is the most practical and accessible way to do that. You don't have to be oming all day to make it work for you. Okay, so let's get into it. Hello, everybody. I'm Becca. I help women in tech and product get promoted to leadership roles. That is my actual full-time job. It is the best. Not just any leadership role, though, and not for the purposes of being a better producer for an organization. This is about promoting women to tiers of influence in their organizations so that they can change work culture to make it more supportive, equitable, and just for everybody. That is the mission of my group program, my coaching, and everyone who's in my community called Fearless Femmes. Oops, there we go. So a couple promises for you for this session. I am not going to ask any rhetorical questions. If I ask you a question, I intend for you to answer it. Please do it in the chat. The more you engage, the more you'll get out of this, I promise. I bring a really authentic style to the table. I swear moderately, so fair warning. And what you see is what you get here. This is the way that I teach, and I talk kind of fast, so keep up, but also ask questions, please. There also may be a little bit of tough love today. I want you to feel all of the sugar in the container and the compassion and how not alone you are, but there's also going to be a little spice about taking action and taking responsibility for getting you to where you need to be as a force multiplier product leader. I will give you all the help I can in an hour. This is not one of those like teaser things where you have to then sign up for something to actually get the value. We're going to cover everything you need in this hour, as much as I can possibly give you. But if you do stay to the end and you want to learn more about how to get more help, I will tell you exactly how to do that. You will leave here today with a 6-step technique to reclaim your productivity and do more 10x strategic work. If you stay to the end, you'll also get a special offer from me. No spoilers. All right, here we are. Oh, Monica, it looks like, will you actually send Justine a message? It looks like someone's struggling to get in. So Justine will help sort that out. All right, so introducing the 4 horsemen of burnout. These are the 4 harbingers of burnout for pretty much everybody. Doing it alone, self-sabotage, interrupt, and unclear goals. We're gonna do the red, yellow, green, like stoplight method for understanding kind of where you guys are at on each of these things. So in the chat, let's do one at a time. How many of you feel like you are super isolated, uniquely screwed, totally alone in this journey of trying to become a 10X or trying to really realize your potential as a product leader? Red is you feel super alone. Green is like, nah, I'm super well supported. Got a bunch of reds, a few yellows, a few greens. That's awesome. Bunch of yellows. Kind of averaging this out here just to like get a sense of this. Justine, would you say this is like, I feel like it's like a red yellow. So not like totally red, but if I'm reading this correctly, we've got a few greens to drag up that average. But it sounds like there's actually a lot of isolation in the room right now. So I want to be really present to that. And again, know that you're not alone just by virtue of all the people here talking about this at the same time. How about self-sabotage? How are you guys doing with procrastinating right now? How are you doing with negative self-talk that keeps you from taking opportunities? Red is if you're self-sabotaging quite a bit. Green, you're like totally good. Every action you take is in line with your goals. Got some yellows, yellow, green, orange. Yep, we can blend these colors. Amazing. Jill, congratulations on your new job. That's huge. I wish you all of the energy and the like maximum force multiplier energy to getting started on Monday. Here for you. And celebrate. This is also one of the antidotes to burnout, is celebrating these tiny wins. So, or this is actually an enormous win, but celebrate the tiny wins too. All right, so I'm also getting kind of a red, yellow, orange version of this. It looks like we've got some misalignment here between what you guys are doing and the goals that you're intending to achieve. All right, so that's good to know. How about interrupt? This is the one we're going to get into today. How many are you guys able to get 2 hours of solid work done, like deep focus? If so, green. If not, red. Red. Okay. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to talk about this one today, most of all. A little bit of self-sabotage, but also interrupt. Oh, good. So you can get it after at night after dinner. It's really important to, you know, like we're going to get interrupted here and there. Know what containers you can defend as and honor the sanctity of low interrupt deep work. How about unclear goals? Do you guys have goals for your career right now? How about at your company? And are you taking action on them every day? Got a bunch of reds, yellows. Oh, green. Yeah, we got one green, a couple greens. That's good. This one's coming off as more as like a yellow, but clear goals is definitely one of the things that we want to elucidate here as a big reason for burnout. We can be actually getting a bunch of traction and doing a bunch of stuff, expending energy, but if it's not towards a outcome or on a conscious, intentional path, it's going to result in burnout because we're not getting any kind of feedback loop about progress, right? All right, this is great to know, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a technique today that addresses a little slice of this, because that's honestly just all I can really fit into an hour. In Fearless Femmes, which is my community program for women who want to get promoted to leadership in tech and product, we go into the whole picture of this. One at a time, we get each of these pieces addressed at a root cause level so that this technique is an absolute breeze. It's still going to be really useful to you though. So I'm excited to hear what you think. All right. So why change the way you're doing things? A real question, again, not rhetorical. Is the way you're doing things awesome? Is it making you feel exhausted? Are you feeling super stressed? Deeply unhappy? I'm here with you, Lindsay. Why change what you're doing? Creating difficulty, focusing, exhaustion. That was what I was talking about at the beginning. Burnout, stress, anxiety, different outcomes that we're targeting. And again, this part of this, again, we want to give credit where credit is due in terms of the pandemic, but our work culture has been driving us to burnout long before we ever had to deal with coronavirus. Burnout has been a major issue, especially for women, for a very long time. So let's talk about, I'm going to switch over to my handy dandy whiteboard here. I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. All right. You should see my whiteboard is in the sort of large and in color here. Let me know if you have trouble seeing it. I want to introduce you guys to your next mountain. When you're a novice, right? This is sort of the three mountains here. There's the novice peak, there's the strategist peak, and the executive peak. These are not job titles so much. I want you to consider these as phases of your career, right? The first, say 2 years, 2-3 years of your career is in novice mode, overseeing in a small window. All right, let me just fix this really quick. Boom. Okay, back to it. 3 phases of your career, 3 mountains you're gonna climb. First is the novice mountain, and I'll kind of describe what each of these means. In your novice phase of your career, your whole objective is to establish a pattern library. Learning frameworks so that when a certain situation arises, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen something like this before. And you can very competently and with a relatively high degree of confidence deploy the approach that has worked for you in the past. It's a pattern library that you've just got stacked because you've had a bunch of experience. And again, the strategy to climb this mountain and the obstacles that represent this hill here really are around experience. It is your 1000% job to be getting as much experience as possible when you're a novice. That is how you win the game. to tools like the to-do list, when you're just like, knock it out, like one-to-one, yes, this experience is great, got that experience, breaking it down into a to-do list is super practical. It's actually a great tool for this level. The reason why exhaustion starts to really kick in, why burnout starts to kick in, is because once you've reached the peak of this mountain, you're on to the next mountain, the strategist mountain. And the tools that worked for this mountain are not going to work as well here. This peak is to 10x yourself. That's it. When you are a strategist, when you've reached the peak, you'll know, because saying no is easy. You know exactly what the most important thing to work on is, and you have total confidence sharing that with other people and enrolling them in a vision. And that's how you 10x yourself, right? If you were to use these tools like to-do lists to 10x yourself, getting 10x as much done, you would have the to-do list that is 10 times as long. It's an out-of-date tool. It worked so well. We are so thankful for how it got us here, but it's not going to get us to the top of this mountain, right? The executive level is also sort of the strategist and executive mountains are really what we focus on in Fearless Femmes, our community program. And the 10xing others is the objective for folks who are at that executive level. They'll know they're there when delegating is really easy. So 10xing yourself, 10xing others, that's sort of the journey right here that Fearless Femmes really focuses on. There's a bunch of programs and stuff for novices that are stellar, and I'm happy to recommend those, but it's just a slightly different toolkit than what we use in Femmes. So 10xing yourself, what does this involve, right? Actually, so just quick check-in. Who's a strategist? Who's a novice? Who's the executive? Go ahead and enter into the chat. Got some novices, halfway to strategist, a bunch of novices here. You will still get a ton of value out of this. It is never too early to start investing in this. On the way to executive, strategist, all right. Perfect. So you guys are in the right place. You're going to learn a ton about navigating this swath and then prepping yourself for this one. Because there's a couple tools that are going to get you to the top of this mountain. One, I'll just kind of like put these here. Ruthless prioritization. 2, coaching. We don't send Olympic athletes to the Olympics without coaches. It would be patently insane to expect you to perform at the highest level without one. Emotional fitness. And a community. The community aspect, of course, really addressing head on that horseman of burnout of doing it alone. It's a design problem. When you're working in community, that's no longer an issue. So these tools, and then boom, you kind of add one more up here when you're at the executive level, board of directors. We won't talk about that today, but all of these things build on each other to allow you to ascend these mountains. So ruthless prioritization is the one that I really want to talk most about today, and a little bit of emotional fitness. What is stopping you from saying no? Why not say no? When something gets, you guys are getting interrupted all the time, new things are being dropped on your plate, unclear goals because it's like unclear where exactly you're going. But you're afraid to disappoint people, piss people off. You don't want to seem unhelpful. Everything's set, like people say that it's everything's high priority, right? Though we know that if everything's high pri, nothing's high pri. We don't want to seem lazy or unhelpful or be disagreeable. There's no backup. Sometimes there really is expectation setting we have to do. It's backfired in the past. That's a big one that I hear a lot. Politics, there's empathy for others. We will get into that. Again, it's a beautiful plus side. It's a skill to have this kind of empathy. Also comes with some shadow parts that we'll discuss later. And you want to prove your worth. So I'm going to sum up all of the answers that you guys just said. Disappointing others, backfiring, afraid that it won't get done, missing an opportunity, visibility, people will think I'm being lazy. You know what all of that is? Fear. This emotion This emotional baggage, this fear that something bad is going to happen is the thing that is getting in the way. It's the main obstacle on the way to being a strategist. I can teach you all the techniques in the world, but at the end of the day, you're not going to deploy them if you're feeling this fear. So we're going to break this down just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself again. So at a high level, the reason why we're changing the way we're doing things is because we need new tools, new mountain, new tools, and we're done letting fear run the show, right? If our mountain is to make saying no be easy, natural, the most collaborative thing in the world, then we've got to conquer this fear. Okay, so next. If you remember literally one thing and one thing only from this workshop, I want it to be this. Every single thing you do is an investment. Everything, every minute you spend, every dollar you spend, every ounce of emotional energy gets you a result. There's an outcome on the other side. For 10Xers, that outcome is 10X what they put in every time, or most of the time, right? No one's 10X all the time. But most of the time, that's what they're able to do, right? What's the cost when you say yes to something that maybe you should say no to? Oops, let's see, I lost my chat here. Burnout, time, probably performance, right? You do worse work when you're tired. Super obvious things that I think they're just so worth revisiting in this moment, right? Here's the thing, guys. Your boss wants you to do few things well, not many things poorly. This guilt and the exhaustion and ultimately the choice that you're making to take on more than you can is the thing that's standing in the way of you becoming a 10Xer. So again, what got you here is not going to get you there. We've got to learn an altogether new technique. We're going to do that right now. The principle behind this technique is that the more you plan, the less busy you'll be. Again, pretty common sense, right? Especially if you're a product leader, you do a lot of planning up front so that you can streamline, plan, have clarity about what the roadmap in front of you actually looks like. So here's the tough love part. And I mean this with just all the warmth and loving this in the world. I love this quote from Brene Brown that sums it up. Busyness is the world's most socially acceptable opiate. Busy is just sloppy time management. And it allows you all this space to give away your agency about how you spend your time, right? So again, there's a lot of pressures on us out there if we're going to take radical responsibility for our goals, things that really matter, by the way. This is your career. You get to accomplish your goals on whatever time frame you choose. You're 100% in the driver's seat here. And the amount of energy we spend being burned out, exhausted, context switching with interrupt is absolutely crazy. And here we are wearing busy kind of like a badge of honor. That's what our culture has given us. It's not our fault. We weren't born thinking this, right? But this is what we've been socialized to believe. So again, key to this technique is a fundamentally different mindset and approach about your level of responsibility and power. In Fearless Femmes, we go through each of these things in a very detailed way, right? On the process or the path to getting this promotion. We train up your emotional fitness. We address the self-sabotage. We cannot be fighting against ourselves every step of the way. We set a powerful vision statement for yourself that's really energizing. Like when you know why you're doing something, getting it done is actually pretty fun. And you can establish clear, inherently motivating goals, like getting a promotion for the right role for you. That causes you to get up every morning. So we're assuming we've got a clear goal in place here. I will eventually do workshops on each of these other things, or you could just join Fearless Femmes and have an absolute boot camp for it in a super warm, supportive environment. But here's the technique. Are you ready? Okay, pull out your notes. This is it. It's 6 steps. This is part 1, and there's a little bit of a part 2 that's like the 6th step. You've got this goal, right? A monthly goal. You've decided that it is the most important thing that needs to get done this month. No competition, like that is the thing. And yeah, you have to there's other things that are competing, but you've decided that this is going to be the most important thing you get done. Identify that goal and sit down at the beginning of every month and figure out what that is. Number 2, Write down everything that has to happen logistically for this goal to be accomplished. Every single thing. Open my laptop, pull up spreadsheets, research the market, the competitors in the market. All these things are literal logistical tasks that represent your roadmap to having this goal accomplished. Number 3, what else? What else? What else? This has to be exhaustive. No surprises, right? This is where your rigor is going to make all the difference here. Again, sitting down and planning exactly what you have to do removes all the mystery from how you're going to get this done. It also kind of circumvents this problem we get into when our goals are ambiguous about, am I cut out for this? Can I do it? Am I good enough to make this happen? No, girl, if you write down the literal logistical instructions to get your goal done, any schmuck off the street could do it. Good news, you don't have to be special, but you are. Number 4. What conditions need to be true for these logistics to happen? Look, if the goal has to do with having an in-person event, yeah, part of the logistics is going to be waiting for COVID to be over, right? So again, we're in a reality here, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it is logistical. And number 5, critical. If you skip this, your goal won't happen. Ask yourself what self-care you have to commit to keep your shit together. Right? This is not a, oops, my phone's ringing there. This is not optional. This is absolutely key. If you are not decompressing your stress at the end of every day, because you do have a stressful job, right? You're not gonna go the distance. You're not gonna be able to be a 10Xer. Any questions about this? Let's see, let's get my chat up here. What if I can't come up with only one goal? I'll address that in just a second. That clarity is going to be really important. At the end of the day, you just got to pick one. It's kind of arbitrary. If you've got a bunch of things that are all awesome and important, the only thing that's not an option is to not choose. Okay. How to be better at defining the goals. That's, oh God, this is a whole different workshop. So is the self-care aspect. I'll see if I have time to address this at the very end, guys. But these are great questions. Thank you. As long as we're following like what the actual steps are, then we're in good shape. So here's my question for you. This process of planning, like setting a goal, making a plan, and breaking a goal down into concrete steps, and then laying those steps out for execution. What does this process look like to you? You're all product leaders. This is literally what you do every day, like in Jira or whatever. This is actual sprint planning, right? You sit down and in this case, you're doing it collaboratively, which is awesome, by the way. It's another perk of having community around you while you do this. You break down this goal, this problem, and get creative about how to solve it. If there's unknowns, you go and do some discovery on it, but you end up with this list of things that's gonna get you to a definition of done, right? So don't tell me you don't know how to do this or that this won't work. It works for you all the time, right? So let's go into part 2 for a second, because this is also going to be super important. Oops, sorry. And then what did I say here? You don't have to do any of this. This is the other thing about the mindset, guys. You've got this goal. It matters to you. You don't have to do anything, but you want to. You choose this, right? So coming at this from a place of like, yes, this is what I want to do with my life and how I want to spend my time, it's going to make a big difference in your natural motivation. All right, part 2. Everything goes on your calendar. This is the sort of the fun part of making this process. You've made what's effectively like a pretty long to-do list, right? But now what you do is you translate that to-do list onto your calendar, because each of those items represents an investment of your time. Right? It had better be a really good use of your time. Every minute you invest on this thing must be towards a really meaningful goal. And if it's not, you're not going to do it. You're going to say no, right? Here is Lucy. Lucy's a real fearless femme who actually, I loved how she made this available for everyone in the community. This was her actual plan for her own graduation and promotion up to the executive level from strategist. She set a quarterly goal. She made this work for her. She did a little bit more high level for quarters rather than monthly. Again, choose your own adventure. If that's what works for you better, go for it. Establishing growth and development plans and a conversation cadence with her direct reports. That's a goal. It's the success looks like a certain thing, right? Alignment on what my team is working towards over the next year. And the activities to get that done are listed here. And what she did was she took each of these things, estimated, like you do with story points, about how long it'll take. Don't overthink it, right? I have a rule of thumb here that I'll show you about, rather than kind of churning on, oh, is this, how long is this going to take? I don't know. Stop. If it's a small task, mark an hour. If it's a big task, mark it a week. Maybe you'll end up with some buffer. That's awesome, right? And then you wake up every morning and get done what you have put on your calendar. That's it. You just wake up and execute. You don't even have to figure out what to do, right? If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. And this is where we really derive some strength and clarity and power in our no. When something gets dumped on our plate and it's not in line with this goal that you have done all of this diligence on, making sure that it's the most important thing that you could be doing right now, it's got to go, right? If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. This is the easiest way to enforce this for yourself. I do recommend that people sit down, when femmes do this, a thing that's gotten them really good results with this is to devote 30 minutes a week to sit down and refine that week's tasks. So again, like, yes, of course, things change. Of course, you get more information and maybe the plan evolves. Great. I like to cordon off a little bit of time on Mondays and just integrate all of that into my plan. Sometimes I move calendar things around, but what I don't have is a bunch of random meetings that are blocking me from actually getting any work done, right? So this is an actual screenshot of my calendar. I do not do any meetings on Mondays. My self-care is here. If I don't drink my coffee and meditate and like get my breath going, then I have a crappy day. I just know this about myself. Same with exercise. This is how I de-stress at the end of the day. I take on a lot of emotional weight from people all day. If I don't move that through my body, it stacks. It starts to build up and I get burned out, right? I've got lunch here and you guys can kind of see how this works, right? My big goal for that Friday was to develop a nurture sequence, which is like all the emails that you guys are going to get out of after this workshop that give really valuable additional pieces of content along all these lines. I had to write those emails. That's the logistics of it, right? So author the first two, author the next two, and then really knock out the rest in a period of deep focus here. That's what I planned to do, and I completed that sequence that way. Does this make sense? Again, breaking things down into logistics, putting it on your calendar. You do this all the time. The time to take it home for yourself, right? So you can do this at work with work goals, and you can do it with your professional and personal career goals. Getting a promotion follows the exact same process as delivering a strategic feature for your organization. Okay, so the number one argument, objection that I get when I share this technique is I can say no and it doesn't work, right? I say no and they're like, do it anyway. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I want to introduce one element that's going to be, I think, make a big difference. Because frankly, a lot of people tend to be more scared of saying no than is actually warranted. Sometimes your boss really doesn't care about you and how tired you are or the fact that you're burned out. That's a reality that we have to grapple with. But often it feels a lot scarier than it should be to just draw a boundary. So here's what you say. Here's the line. I've given it to you, the collaborative no. Thank you for this idea, this feature, this task, this meeting. Here are the priorities we agreed to. Show them. What should I swap out? Give it like total benefit of the doubt that what they're suggesting is super important and totally warrants you dropping everything and like rushing to it. But I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, guys, they're like, oh, you know what? Never mind. We can come back to this another time. I really want you guys leveraging this to the best of your ability. I see a bunch of good questions here, so I will get to those at the end. I'm almost done here. Here's the thing, guys. You get to decide what you accomplish and on what time frame. This is the ultimate empowered mindset that just I think that you really can internalize as true. You don't have to get a promotion if you don't want to, but if you do, there's steps to get there, and it's work. But if you're a person like most of the women in Fearless Femmes, it's not just about the checkbox of a promotion or a raise or whatever. Like, that's actually pretty empty. There's real soul in your work. There's a reason why you're doing this. Leverage some of that energy. Let's get problem solving and get really organized around how you're going to actually make this happen. Again, you are experts at this. This is your full-time job. And at the end of the day, I just really want to be encouraging. Be ruthless. That's how you're gonna climb this mountain. And if you are ruthless and hold your boundaries while really holding that breath, that calm, steady breath, then you're gonna have really good results here. Work smart instead of hard. That's literally all strategy boils down to this. You become a 10Xer when you work smart instead of hard. Busyness, working super hard, exhausting ourselves, all stuff that's been glorified by our culture, and it's going to stand in your way. This is good strategy. Overstretching yourself, making yourself less happy, less creative, less effective, right? Because again, I think we can all agree when we're exhausted. Actually, I mean, do you guys feel like you do better work when you're really exhausted? If you do, that would kind of be a marvel of science. It's actually pretty adaptive. That when we're super freaked out and in survival mode, our curiosity and our creativity is like goes out the window. Our ancestors who were like, oh, interesting, let me be creative when a tiger was chasing them, didn't live to tell the tale. So like this is what we're working with, right? But we can't let our nervous system completely run the show, because guess what? There's not a tiger chasing you. There's just not. So why do we do this? Why? It's not because you're broken. It's not because you didn't know how to do this already, because you did. Human giver syndrome is the phenomenon that we understand from the absolute enormous amount of stress science and the physiology of stress and the psychology of stress that's available to us now. How many of you see yourself in this? Human giver syndrome is the belief that you have a moral obligation to give every drop of your time, energy, creativity, and support of others, no matter the cost to you. And often you don't really turn that kind of care and attention back to yourself. This is human giver syndrome. Women, people of color, have an undue amount of expectation about to have human giver syndrome. And as people who want to be helpful, who are empathetic, we rise to that occasion and then get a bunch of negative feedback if we don't give every drop of our time. If we don't give 110% to others, we get punished. It's no joke. This is an actual collective trauma that we have incurred that is influencing our ability to become and ascend to this peak of being a strategist where saying no is easy. And the result, the reason why you guys are so exhausted is what's called compassion fatigue. So I want you guys to kind of check symptoms here. Who's feeling yourself kind of check out emotionally at work? Just raise your hand or just say me. How about you minimize suffering that isn't like the most extreme? Like, oh, well, there was a tsunami in Japan, so, you know, I shouldn't complain. Yeah. Hopeless, helpless, powerless. That's this whole thing about like, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit down and to make my calendar. I don't have time to do things that are going to give me more time. Bankruptcy that you've declared, powerlessness. It's learned helplessness. This is really, really intense, guys. You stay in a bad situation because if I don't do it, no one will. For Callie, who was really happy to share her story so graciously, because it's quite personal. She's a fearless femme who her nature of product leadership is gigantic, large scale art installations. It's just so cool. And so her version of this was fine. You know, when she started working with me, she was just absolutely exhausted. She kept getting put in these central roles of being a contributor, and people would just look at her, see how capable and competent she was, and just keep layering things on. It never occurred to her to say no. And building awareness around that allowed us to kind of stick a wedge in that pattern that basically we discovered she had since she was a little girl, being primary caretaker for her parents. She learned this really early, that it was actually really important for her family to say yes to everything, because there was a reality to the fact that it wouldn't get done, right? So again, we've got to unlearn some of these things that our culture has given us, that our families have given us, that are our work environments have given us if we want to actually put this technique to use and just accelerate, just supercharge your ascension to strategist and executive. Caring for ourselves, I love this quote from Audre Lorde, she's such a queen. Caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. There is a politics to our achievement. There's a politics to our exhaustion. There's a politics to our ability to achieve our goals. It is, you're not imagining it, that is actually real. And that is why in Fearless Femmes, we talk about all of this in context. We cannot talk about our bodies or our breath or our goals or achievement without talking about systemic oppression, without talking about the injustice that we face every day and the differences and obstacles that are put in front of different people depending on, you know, their unique intersection that they bring. Doing it alone, getting you to a place where you're sabotaging yourself and doing a bunch of negative self-talk and self-criticism, being constantly interrupted, feeling like you're running around having fires, and a bunch of people basically kind of telling you conflicting stories about what's most important. This is the current culture of work. This is what you're being, there's a reason why it's hard, right? Like the 4 horsemen of burnout are things that we have to take massive responsibility and really resource ourselves to overcome every single day, because they're gonna keep coming at us, right? So my ask for you is that you don't do it alone. This is the most important factor, like the biggest a single thing you can invest in is a community of people who are like-minded, share your values, and really want you to get to where you're going to be. Because doing it alone, it's not going to be a good time. I think you know that. So I promised you that I would give you everything I could in an hour and then tell you how to get more help. So I'm going to do that really quick. If you don't want more help, no problem. I'll just run through this really quick and then we'll get to open coaching at the end. Fearless Femmes is a group of currently around 60, we're going to be tripling that this year, women in product and tech with a mission to get promoted to leadership roles within 12 months. That's the container that we operate in. The program itself is 6. A lot of people are getting promotions within 6 months, but for people at senior levels, sometimes it just takes longer because of logistics. So 12 months is really the container we do. And we're not just getting it to check a box or create more money for a company. We're doing it to attain the influence we need to change this work culture that's so screwed up and that causes us so much suffering. It is a really seriously amazing, powerful community. And if you're interested in becoming a femme, you have an opportunity to do that. I'm currently accepting applications. What you get is a hybrid coaching program, super transformational one-on-one work, as well as this just this community of women that meet twice a month and give each other constant support on Facebook and WhatsApp that are just an incredible support system. You will never feel alone if you're part of this community, and you will get a promotion within 12 months if that is what your heart desires. You will also have the real skills to make work for you rather than feeling totally exhausted by it. The spectrum of results, like I kind of want to just mention this, like, yes, tangible outcomes include a 50K raise. I get that all the time for folks. That 50K is like super average. Getting that promotion, right? The title. And the impact, always is actually about the impact, right? But there's also all these intangible things that also have to happen that are worth something. And I just want to take a stand for, even though we can't put necessarily a dollar amount on these things, all of these intangible aspects on these spectrums, all these intangible outcomes on the spectrum also must be dialed in for you to get the tangible things. And in Fearless Femmes, we address all of it. So I've put Justine has shared the link to the application in the chat. So check it out. I just have it open, run through, check it out. And I've got program information super detailed for you, so you know exactly what you're doing. But if you have a suspicion that a program like this would give you a 10x improvement in your life and career, I really want to talk to you, right? And this is measurable, right? A 50K raise is a 10x result in just dollars on the 4-figure investment that this program represents. this mid four-figure investment. So check it out. I'll send you guys all information about it, but consider this your official invitation to apply. And basically, once you finish that application process, we'll get in touch with you, and you will get this is the special offer for you. I will spend a free call with you to explore your strategy and what your goals are, and give you some one-on-one attention and help with that, and talk about how Fearless Stems fits into that picture. The system is super straightforward. There's no mystery here. There is a process that we follow, starting with your biology, your breath, your body, your habits, locking in your vision and values, setting clear goals. Those of you who haven't set clear goals yet, there's a reason. You aren't getting the support you need to do that. We then create this advancement action plan, just like we did here. I literally pulled this directly from the Fearless Stems content, so you get a little sneak preview here. And then critically, we've designed accountability in for you, where every step of the way, this action plan that you've just created and put on your calendar, we are there to support you every step of the way until you get this promotion. So that's the promise. And if you're interested in it, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Love to hop on a call. Love to see your application come in. We are just here for you and would love to meet you. Okay. So let's see. Oh man, I need some water. I'm like thirsty. Let's see. I've got a couple questions. Justine, if you wouldn't mind DMing me the questions. And then I'll go for the hands that are up also. But I kind of want to start with the questions that were that went first, and then we'll go as fast as we can.
Okay.
Let's see.
Becca. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Sorry, I'm having issues with the chat, but do you want me to just read you the one I have here?
Yeah, that'd be great. Go for it.
Okay. So how do you handle if your boss or stakeholder resigns one of your agreed upon prioritized tasks as a response to your collaborative no?
So it's just to kind of like make sure that I'm getting the pieces here. You give your collaborative no, you set a boundary because it's going to result in lower quality work or burnout, which again will ultimately result in lower quality work. And what happens exactly as a result?
So how do you handle if your boss or stakeholder reassigns one of your agreed upon prioritized tasks as a response to your collaborative no?
Well, again, so from every case is going to be unique and different, which is why it's helpful to kind of be able to go deep here. But at a high level, that sounds awesome. Like it sounds like you've got the support that you need to like at your level to get done everything that you need to get done. I'd say that there is something deeply in integrity and respectable about somebody who's like, no, we want this done well, and I cannot do both of these things well. I can do both of them poorly or mediocre if you want that, but I don't think we want that. So yeah, let's get it moved to another team or another person who can get some hands on deck. That sounds awesome. Now, I'm sure your follow-up question here is about, okay, well, that makes me look bad. It doesn't make you look bad if you have agreed upon priorities with your manager about what you need to deliver for your own advancement. So there's a bunch of pieces here, but ultimately, if you have a relationship with your manager where there's clarity on what you need to get a promotion, and you have done the work to like make sure that that is a reasonable, attainable goal for you to deliver on, maybe pushing your boundaries a bit, but certainly not burning you out.
Tanvi has her hand up.
Yeah, Tanvi, this is, I think, your question, so go for it.
Sorry, that was when you were asking to raise your hand if you agree with the burnout questions.
Awesome. Yes, sorry, that's okay. Perfect. So hopefully that answers the question. Again, there's always a bunch of pieces here. This is a small slice of a holistic strategy for your career advancement. But the collaborative no should work most of the time, and you should try it. And if it gets reassigned, then again, like I think it's worth a conversation with your boss about what that means. It might be an awesome thing. Like when you're that well resourced, it sounds like an awesome thing. Okay. So, you want to complete the task because it's high visibility, high outcome. I see, Nina, I see your question now. So in that case, what else are you going to cut? If that's the highest, most important thing, then what else is going to go? Like, again, there's physics here. right? I wish I could create more hours in the day, but honestly, I wouldn't. I would probably use them for something besides work. And so, you have to check in on what you want to accomplish and why. Hopefully that's helpful. Cool. So next question, you say you should have a 10-minute break after 50 minutes of work. Don't see anything in your calendar. This is a great question. I sandbag my estimates and I highly recommend you do too. For a 10-minute task, I'll give myself half an hour. It's the best. And then I end up with 20 minutes where I can, if I'm feeling stoked and like energized and I'm like in flow, then I'll get a bunch of other stuff done. And if not, I'll go take a walk or stretch or have a bite to eat or like pet my dog that I don't have yet. Like that, I mean, that all sounds really wonderful. So sandbag your estimates. There's no virtue. You get to decide what you accomplish and on what time frame. If I didn't sandbag my estimates, I would be burned out and not here right now. Like that trade-off is insane. So that's my investment, right? My investment is in rest. Okay, let's see. The cost of the program, it is mid 4 figures. It's a 6-month program, very, very high touch and comprehensive. So again, like it should represent a 5-figure return for you. But go ahead and check out the application, and there's a link with all of the details about what you get. Like buying a bicycle for 4 figures is very different than buying a car for 4 figures. So go check it out and you can evaluate if it works for you. Let's see. Oh, Lisa, this question's so good about having a clear diary, but collaborating with people, which means meetings. So I have a bunch of meetings too. Obviously, I meet with people all day. That's like a big part of my job. The question is, what meetings do you need to have, and are they super important? I bet if you look at your calendar right now, you could cut 60% of your meetings. I'm just gonna go ahead and like put that out there. I bet you could. And I bet the world would still turn and you would have a bunch more time for focused effort to like really put your energy into strategic work. And if you, again, like this, we've been just so overwhelmed into believing that this is an adversarial conversation. Your collaborators want you to be effective. They don't want you exhausted and having being grumpy and having like lower caliber ideas. Like they want you to be your best self. If that means extending the timeline, then getting better work out of you, then that should be a obvious yes. And you should have a ton of support there. If you don't, separate question for another day, another workshop. Erica, I interrupted my complete nurture sequence with an email catch up. I get bored doing things for too long. So I break things up to keep it lively. Sometimes if I'm really in flow with something, I'll move something around. I will consciously choose to move it to later. This is not me being like, oh, I don't have time to do anything. Oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. There's so much to do. It's like, no, I choose to move my deadline. And I communicate that to anyone who needs to know about that because it is more strategic for me to continue the deep work. It is more strategic for everyone for me to continue the deep work, not just for me. Again, doing it for yourself should be enough, but again, we've got a bunch of societal context to combat with, so sure, make it about everyone else too. Cut meetings without FOMO. Oh my God, you love meetings. I'm being lighthearted here. Cutting meetings without FOMO. Let's see if we can I bet there's meetings that you can combine. Again, let's get creative here. If there's really a meeting that you want to get in on that is strategic for you to be there, you should attend. But if it's more strategic for you to do something else, get the email notes or something. Yeah, don't let FOMO, again, fear. If fear is like running the show, you're not going to climb this mountain. Let's see. Yeah, delegating to a team member ally to be in the meeting. That's a good one. Thank you, Diane. That's brilliant. So Ricky, so you said for all the novices in the group, your job is still to gain as much experience as you can. So we shouldn't be saying no as much, or we shouldn't be using these techniques. Great question. I love this structured approach to setting priorities because it will make you shine all the time. If you have all this clarity about what you're doing and why and what the highest priority thing is, your work will be better. It will advance your career. You should say yes to a wide variety of topics. The difference between, like, to get experience in different things to figure out what you like. That's the objective. For strategists, you know what you like, and you should say no to things that you don't like because you're going to be worse at them. People are good and effective at things they like and are naturally good at. And so part of the novice phase is to discover what that is. And so then you can guard it with your life with total ruthlessness on your strategy phase. Yes, you will get a recording of the session. Let's see, I'm just going up through other, Tanvi, tools to recommend to prioritize tasks. I have an amazing one for you. I want you to Google the RICE framework for prioritization. If you like spreadsheets, you are gonna love this. So check it out. You can read all about it. There's a bunch of resources everywhere. It's not mine. It's just one that I learned about in my career that's really great. And you can do it for your life too, if you're like super type A like that. Let's see, any other questions that I'm missing here? Any other questions from the very beginning, Justine, that I missed? Anyone want to just like pipe up and ask a question? We've got 4 minutes. If I haven't answered your question yet.
Yeah, hi.
Great.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, asked it, but I think that maybe skipped it. So you mentioned that if a task is small, you allocate an hour, and if a task is big, you allocate a week. However, if we're talking in a sprint kind of mode, then a week is a bit big for a task. So usually we break it up more. So how do you have some suggestions of how to break up big tasks so that we can actually schedule them properly?
Yeah. So again, I would use the exact same tools and techniques that you do to break down a story. I agree. I think that a week is probably pretty vague. I'd say that I would deploy the week strategy. Again, this is speaking personally, like make this work for you. But the way that I've had success with it, if there's like a big hairy discovery process for something, it's hard to break it down into more than a week because there's like going to be research and I'm going to then uncover a bunch of stuff. I'll learn what the tasks are through the research process. I'll give myself a week for that when there's a little more ambiguity for what I'm trying to get done. But yeah, I mean, you should, again, we're making a list here. If you've got a bunch of week-long tasks, just like hold yourself to a standard to break it down a little bit more. Put a little more thought into it. Most tasks can be broken down. Most well understood tasks can be broken down to a day, at least a day investment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps.
Anyone that I skipped by accident? The chats were going really fast. I honestly didn't mean to pass anyone by. Okay, let's see. Catherine Wu, how do you differentiate between burnout that needs to be treated with a more complete unplug? Oh, I love this question. We were just talking about it in our Fearless Femmes meeting yesterday. Better at saying no, the strategies you're sharing here. When I was burned out, could not heal myself in the hyper-inflammatory environment of the company I was working at. I couldn't. I was just talking to a femme yesterday who's going through the same thing. We decided that she can't either. It's not impossible. If you set boundaries, if you have a plan and a ton of support for, again, this is nervous system level root cause stuff. We've got some real rehabilitation to do from the body up to heal burnout. And if you can get that done, if you can put all of those tasks for healing burnout, which by the way, there are steps to do it. We do it in Fearless Femmes all the time. That's going to take up a big chunk of your calendar. Can you get that done while also working at your job and performing to a reasonable degree at your job? That's what you have to figure out. And there's no right answer for everybody. This is something that's going to be your totally for you to check in on. And do it with your coach, ideally. Okay, one more minute, I know, and then we'll wrap up, guys, because I want to respect your time. But one more question, if I can fit it in. I work in a resource-constrained environment where if I say no, there's only one other person to take on the work or no one to take it. How to stick to your guns. There is a strategic planning process that you can do. If your company doesn't do it, many don't. the amount of companies without a product strategy is staggering, and probably a reason why some of you guys feel kind of lost and confused. It's not you, I promise. You can create strategy that's really clear for your own domain. How much money do you want to make the company that quarter? How many users do you want to grow the user base by? What impact do you want to have? Have that lined up, and then your strategy to get there is super clear. And then, you know, again, this is the thing where if you have that strategy in place and you've gotten buy-in from your boss that it's the most important thing you could be doing, then it shouldn't be much of a conversation at all. If you got stuff dumped on your lap, you can be like, well, but like this was the priority, and they'll be like, oh, okay. Most of the time, you'll get people working with you on that because, again, they want you doing few things well, not many things poorly. Most of the time, you will actually have that support, even if it feels scary. Amazing. Okay, guys, we're at the hour. I will look through the transcript, and if I missed any questions, I will definitely check them out. But please check out that Jot form. Apply to Fearless Femmes. We want you in the community. It is the best. And I've told some stories of what people are able to accomplish through this process together. But if you want a promotion within the next 12 months, and it's super worth it to you, then this should be a slam dunk. Let's explore that together. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I'll let you know when my next workshop is. I'll be doing more of these. Have a great rest of your week and take care of you.